Okay, and have you had any luck with Elizabeth?
I got her unmuted, but I don't have the video mode.
Can we? Email her? Turn the video on?
She has to turn her video on.
The menu, it's a pop-up menu at the bottom of the screen, Elizabeth. Take your mouse down to the bottom of the screen and you'll see the icons pop up.
If one of the board members comes into the meeting late, are they still present, or do they have to be? Okay.
Yeah.
It's noted what time you come in.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
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 Get the video over.
She's trying to download the app, and she doesn't. The website's as good as whatever. So, okay. I guess we're ready to start. Like to call the meeting to order at 2:01. And if we could stand and say the pledge of allegiance to the United States flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under
God.
with liberty and justice for all. And this thing will go to-
Oh.
We'll do that.
Okay.
I missed the phrase.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'd rather not mess it up. Okay, we're going to item number 1 on the agenda, consent agenda.
Roll call.
Oh, roll call, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Roll call chairperson Pat Rawlings,
Here.
vice chairperson Karen Poe. Here. Board member Cody Abney,
Here.
board member Ruth Ann Gilbert. Here. Board member Elizabeth Moore,
She's trying.
She's probably will come in late. Okay. Below the consent agenda. We have the approval of Parks and Recreation Board minute from March 16th, 2022. Do I have a motion?
Motion that we approve the March 15th minutes as
Okay,
submitted. And I second it.
okay, good. We have a roll call.
vice chairperson Karen Poe,
Yes.
board member Cody Abney,
Yes.
board member Ruth Ann Gilbert,
Yes.
board member Elizabeth Moore. So much again.
She's logging on right now.
Okay, and chairperson Pat Rawlings.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna stall for a second to see if the little circle resolves on the screen. Well, I'll keep going. Okay, we're moving on to the regular agenda. Discuss and take appropriate action on suggesting names for the new parks created in 2021 to recommend to the city council. This includes the property on Brook Hollow Drive, R49178, and property on the south side of the entrance to the city of Woodcreek Drive, R48798. Does anyone have any ideas on names for that, for the different parks?
Let's pick a park.
Let's look at let's look at the one on Brook Hollow first. Well, if nobody else is going to pitch in, I like the name Creekside.
I agree.
It's on Hog Creek. You know, when Cody labeled some of the estimate stuff he did as Creekside, I thought, you know, it kind of ties in with the city of Woodcreek. Oh, there's Elizabeth. Elizabeth, can you hear us? Your bandwidth is a little bit low, so we're going to have to see how this works out. So Elizabeth appears to have entered the meeting at 2:05.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, do
We can see her, she's moving, and Elizabeth, say something, okay?
Can you guys hear me? I don't have very good bars right now, but I've heard the entire thing. It's just really slowly letting me participate.
Okay, we can hear you well now. So it'll be a little
Okay.
jerky, but it's work. Good.
Yeah, and if it's too much, I can just turn my video off. So.
Well, if you turn your video off, you've left the meeting technically, so we can't do that.
Okay. All right, I'll leave it on.
Okay. Well, that's kind of my 2 cents on the park on Brook Hollow Drive.
I think that's a great idea.
Anyone else have any comments on that? Cody said he likes it. Aaron likes it.
Creekside.
Creekside.
You would need a number.
Okay.
Okay, you need a motion.
Right.
Do we have a motion per park? Yeah, probably so.
I'll move.
Okay, go ahead.
I move that we name the property on Brook Hollow Drive R49178, and whatever is attached to it. Also, we'll just name that Creekside Park.
I second.
Can we have a roll call?
Board Member Ruth Ann Gilbert,
Yes.
Board Member Elizabeth Moore,
Yes.
Chairperson Pat Rawlings,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Karen Poe,
Yes.
Board Member Cody Abney.
Yes.
Okay, and that passes unanimously with 2 virtual yays. That's cool. Now let's see, we're moving on to the south side of the entrance to the city. And it's the property that at this point in time, we're not really developing or doing anything with, basically because of its swampy nature and it being kind of a colony for mosquitoes. It's a beautiful area and it looks great as you're driving by it. It's just when you go down in there, it's not something that I'm, at this point in time, unless we did some elevation changes or drainage or something on it, that we could.
Do we need to name it now?
Well, the city council has directed us to name it. So I guess the only thing, I drove over there, I sat in the parking place and I stared at it a while and I thought, well, you don't want to call it Ranch Road 12 Park and you don't want to call it Tree Park. There were just all these stupid names that kept popping up. And then I thought, why don't we just call it Champions Park? It's on Champion Circle.
It's not a bad idea.
We could probably rename it later if we decide to do something with it. Not that we need to, I'm not sure
I
that's.
just don't see why we have to name it if we're not even going to be developing it. Since we've been directed to, I guess we will.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on that?
Well, would we want to try something like Tranquility Park or some kind of esoteric? It's a very sweet space. It's very,
Well, and given that it's adjacent to the area that you guys have developed so much, you and Jane Little have worked so much on, I would be very game for that because it's just kind of a natural backdrop to all of the landscaping work that has been done at the entrance.
What do you call it, Woodland Farm? That's nice, yeah.
Mhm.
What was that suggestion?
Woodland Park. Woodlands Park.
The only thing that happens to me is being a former resident of the Houston area. When I hear Tranquility Park and I hear Woodlands Park, I think of definite geographic places in the Houston area.
Yeah,
So I was,
that's why I came up with that, because I was
Yeah.
trying to think of something too that would be,
but they don't have like an exclusive naming right on that or something. I mean, they're both good names. I like the Tranquility one. It's,
What about Tranquil Woods?
oh,
Put 'em together.
Tranquil Woods.
Is it worth, if there's nothing pressing that's urgent, is it worth tabling the naming of that park? And then the next time we meet, everyone has to come back with a proposed name, and then we battle it out then?
That would be a really good idea. Let's do that. I think we're kind of struggling to fill a blank right now that we don't necessarily have any urgency to fill.
And
So,
then to tag it and then do stuff with it.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. That's why some people don't name their children when they leave the hospital. You know, they just say, we haven't figured out the name yet, so we're gonna wait. So, we're gonna to table the second.
Do you have to do a motion on that?
Yeah, I go. You don't?
You think you're good?
Okay, cool. Okay. We're gonna move on to item number 3. This will be,
Hang on, Pat, are we gonna vote on the naming for the Brook Hollow property? I think we had a consensus on that, didn't we?
we voted on that.
Oh, we did?
You voted.
Yeah, we did vote on it. I'm sorry. I got sidetracked trying to come up with a name for the other park.
Okay, so we're moving on to number 3, discuss and take appropriate action on prioritizing the acquisition of various items requested in the Kozak Parks and Open Space Advisory Committee grant application. Okay. Included in the handout that, let's see, is it on the, well, let's see, Chris had a copy here that he's done.
Thank you.
It's actually in,
Oh, it's in there?
it's the next to last page, or the last page.
In the packet?
I see it.
If you take this off, you'll see that number.
It was sent to you, it's the cost changes for Kozak.
I'll see.
Yeah, I just gotta open that up real quick. It's still in my email.
And Elizabeth, I don't know if there's any way on earth you could ever deal with this while still staying on the video and everything else. But.
Well,
just
I thought this app would let me like collapse it so I could volley between like Zoomed. I'm going to, but I'm gonna try to use my hotspot to pull it up on my laptop. So we'll see,
Okay.
maybe.
Dang it.
It's a document, it's a page that says cost changes for Kozak, and it has a description.
I understand more than me.
And it's not in the packet. It's a separate PDF.
It's in a loose page.
It's, you can find it as a separate PDF in a correspondence.
It's an email from Pat. It's just that 2021, 2022 chart, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There it is. I didn't realize it was from Pat. I was searching everybody else. Okay, I got it.
Okay. And if you look at it, we basically have 3 main areas. We have 3 main areas that we've been discussing all along that comprise the Kozak grant. The Brook Hollow Park, which current estimates total at about $192,000, $193,000 approximately. The triangle, which has about $45,000 to $50,000 worth of stuff there with the 2022 estimates. And then Augusta Park, which has about $67,000, $68,000 worth of stuff. And there is some information that is starting to come out from the Kozak group that there is the potential for us not to get the full amount that we were requesting. So that is why we need to understand what the most important items are that we have and how we might prioritize them. I think the comprehensive survey has said over and over and over that a playground for kids is an important thing. And I think it's important for the kids. It's also important for the grandparents and the parents, because the kids, the grandparents, and the parents can all go to these parks and talk to each other and gather and have a common place that's a safe place for them to meet and enjoy being out in nature and fresh air and not sitting in front of a video game or watching the news on TV all day long. And so, in my opinion, the playground equipment is, according to the survey, and at least from my point of view, is one of the most important things that we have on our plate. But I also look at the triangle, and I think having that gazebo there as a gathering place where all different ages could come and gather and sit in there and play cards, play mahjong, dominoes, chess, whatever. At Christmas, you could decorate it. You could have people doing Christmas carols. You got an electrical outlet. You could have somebody up there with an amp playing their guitar. I mean, it's a nice gathering place. It's a natural place for the community to come together. So I'm strong behind the gazebo as well. Augusta Park already has some amenities, not nearly as many as we want. But I don't see it rising to the level of the Brook Hollow Park playground area and the Triangle gazebo area with some of the accompanying amenities. So that's my 2 cents worth. I've been rattling on. I'd like to hear some other discussion.
Do you have any sense of when we might hear how much money we're in?
Short answer, no. Longer answer is they've indicated that they're going to be making decisions in the next few months.
Okay.
Few months could be 1, it could be 5, who knows. We are going to have some meetings with county officials to discuss in a little more detail with them.
I know.
And that's going to be a challenge. I'm talking about Elizabeth. Trying to
yeah. And I'm in the middle seat. Like, I was trying to get this one asleep. I got these 2 in the back. It's a circus, y'all.
No, you're doing great. I'm amazed that they kept your mouth shut this long. No, it's just funny. It's not bothering us at all. So getting back to what we might hear, we think we are probably going to get less. We're not sure how much less. And so we've got kind of a gotcha, because at the council meeting, was it the last council meeting or the council meeting before that Aurora mentioned the LCRA? Was it last council meeting?
Last week, yes.
Last week, okay. And so we are also, as we've been directed to by the past mayor and council, to look for other sources of income as well. So we're continuing to do that, but everything you do like that's a risk, and you don't want to get yourself spread out so thin that you don't get anything. So I think we do need to prioritize this. We've been directed to prioritize this. I've said my thoughts. Other thoughts?
Well, I agree with you. I think the Brook Hollow Park, the Creekside Park would be my first priority, because that's what we want, is a playground for the children. So, and then seeing how much money we get will really determine, I think, where we go after that. Those are my thoughts, so. Because I'm like
I
you,
agree
like-
personally.
Yeah.
I
Well,
guess my position is, and that's the most expensive,
Mhm.
and until we have some feel for how much money we're getting, I don't know that should be the priority,
But
or
every-
I hate saying, we're gonna put all our money here, and then we aren't sure.
But we could also, we don't have to do the entire playground, we can do half. I mean, Cody, don't you agree? We could put the swings in later, put the playscape in first, use some of the money for something else. I mean, it's not all or nothing at Brook Hollow, but, we could have to prioritize. And that's what.
If we break the equipment up, this is a thing to keep in your mind. We're going to lose advantageous pricing on the swing set, which is going to be a
Okay.
strike against it when we meet in the future, when we have a different composition on the city council and this board has a different composition. There's going to be sticker shock associated with that swing set. And then there's not going to be a swing set. That's my thought. When we bundle it all together, I should have started the conversation in the middle. I'm sorry. When we bundle it all together, we're getting advantageous pricing in production, installation, and shipping by doing it all together. So that swing set that cost, I had the quote open a second ago, the revised quote in the package. Let me just open it real quick. And that's that attachment, the packet. So
Yeah.
that quote was, where's the revised quote? Scroll down. Hopefully the revised quote's in here. Rev 2. Well, I can look at the original and you just add 10% to it basically. But the 2-bay primetime swing. So advantageous pricing on that, $4,200. So let's call it $6,000 all in to get that thing. If we wait a year to put it in and we have to pay for an individual shipping, remobilization on construction, and accelerated equipment costs, that $6,000 might be $12,000. And then we have an uphill slog to get the swing set built. And there's been some naysaying about a swing set since we first started talking about this, not necessarily on this board, but we've all heard it in our planning. If we want to have a swing set, we kind of ought to do it with the rest of it. That's my take. However, I see the constraints with us worried that we're not going to get all of the funding that we asked for from Kozak. However, that bucket of money has not been defined yet. I don't think we're at the point right now where we have to start dealing with diminished expectations. Nobody's told us that we're getting less money yet. I hate to present a lesser plan until we have the opportunity to act surprised when Kozak doesn't give us all of our money. I would rather bargain from a position of limited strength than no strength at all if we're going to bargain with Lon Shell. What do y'all think?
I resonate with that. I knew coming into this meeting that this would be kind of a difficult discussion because you're basically trying to prioritize, you're kind of doing some Sophie's Choice type stuff without really knowing how many choices you have and all that. And
Why do we have to do that
right now, we're just asked to prioritize by the city council.
until we know how much money?
But isn't that being ahead of the game? I mean, is that a prudent request that we have to do that? Versus waiting so that we can come into it with real facts and a
Well,
educated.
we could table it based on more information.
Well, and yet we can do that, Pat, but I think so did council direct us to make this prioritization?
Yes.
Let me go back to the meeting agenda.
Chris, can you tell us about,
The thinking of the council.
Chris is our, well, would you talk to it, please, since we have virtual guests?
So, in the handout, I don't know if you on virtual have gotten this, but here locally on the very first page of item 3, where it says item 11, this is the minutes from council. So you'll see the bullet points that they wish to include in the discussion was new quotes for the costs of changes, because they were unsure about the year has things increased. There was an idea of asking for local builders, if possible. Prioritizing any of the projects, which is the part we've been talking about thus far, in case the Kozak grant isn't guaranteed. The next thing is gazebo is not something to do, and concrete slab should not be included. The other thing is comprehensive plan, not a playscape. Accessibility and usability of parks, i.e. parking spaces, source of water. And then the last one was use of natural features. And then after that motion was carried, there was the discussion of creating the site plan, which we didn't have in our packet, we have now in your packet, but including tree placement on the plan versus like trees that are going to be removed versus trees that are going to stay. And just kind of have that as part of the design.
Yeah, okay.
And I want to come back to that point also. Once we've discussed prioritization, I want to come back to the tree issue because there's a couple of things there. If we really want to do prioritization, and you brought up Sophie's Choice, Pat, if we could only save one kid, which one would we save?
Well, I mean, if we were only saving one kid, the kid would be the playground.
Okay, so do we want to put a 1, 2, and 3 on the
I
items that we
like
have?
the
I'm sorry.
other-
Do we want to put a number 1, number 2, number 3?
You, can I say again?
I'm sorry. Go say that again, Pat.
What is gazebo is not something to do?
Yeah, I don't understand that.
That was just what council had mentioned.
That
What are you
was,
saying it's not something to do?
that was one member of the council's statement that it was, something to do. Not something to do. But unfortunately, at this council meeting that I was actually present at, there were a number of questions asked that we actually had answers to, but we apparently had not communicated them well to the council. And so it makes me aware that as we get information, I think it's good to have you as liaison on the committee to help get information back to the council because they wanted new quotes. We'd already gotten new quotes.
Yeah.
Seeking local builders, that would be nice, and maybe we can, well, we are actually part of this Kozak grant. Augusta Park was using Wimberley Restorations, which is a local builder. Prioritizing projects since Kozak grant is not guaranteed. I tend to agree that prioritizing something without knowing how much money you have to spend is just a little premature. The gazebo it says is not something to do. That was a comment made by a council member, and the concrete slab should not be included.
What does that mean?
Well, that's a water thing, but the problem is if you've ever had a deck in any area with a lot of vegetation, a lot of animal life, you discover very quickly that you could have a nest of snakes or rats or foxes or skunks living underneath said wood construction. And so I think that would be creating a maintenance issue for us that we don't need, and it's only a 16-foot diameter circle. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's a significant problem. And even if we did have not have a concrete, it's got a metal roof on it, and so the water is not going to get down below that anyway. It could ooze back in, I guess, but I don't agree with the concrete slab. As far as the gazebo being not something to do, I listed earlier in the meeting all of the different things that you could do with the gazebo. I'll say them again. You could play cards, you could play dominoes, you could play mahjong, you could have informal group meetings. I met recently with the president of the Cypress Point POA, and they have all of their POA meetings in their gazebo over there, and they use the heck out of it. It's a very popular setting. And so there's a lot of parking around it. It could be a great gathering place. It's not, when they say it's not something to do, they mean it's not something to do for little kids or for younger children. And I agree that we need to have, according to the comprehensive plan, and just, I think, a majority of the members on our group, we agree that the kids need something to play on. And so I think that it's kind of pushed out by the playscape, because the playscape does more than the gazebo does for that age demographic, which has not got any support in Woodcreek for the past 37 years.
And I think we decided the triangle is not the right place to put the playscape for safety.
No, you'd have kids being run over and all goes.
Oh, we'd have to build a $50,000 fence around it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Comprehensive plan wants playscape, we agree. Accessibility and usability of parks, any parking spaces, source of water. There was a mention of a source of water at the Brook Hollow Park, which would be nice, but we already have a source of water at the Triangle, and Aqua Texas has said they would furnish us a water fountain at their expense. And Chris had included an example of a very nice water fountain that also has a lower portion that's like for dogs. So that's really cool.
I want to make a comment on that. Would we want to put that water fountain that Aqua Texas has said they'll give us? Wouldn't we want to put that next to a playground? Now, there's not a hose bib at the Creekside property right now, but there's a water main right in front of it. A hot tap and a 3/4-inch water line ran out for a water fountain is like, that's one day's work for, I mean, I have a friend that can do it. He's a responsible master plumber. And he does it for a living.
I think we're getting into the weeds on that, but I agree with you. I don't think we should try to pin down the location exactly.
Water. And Woodcreek North has a playground without any water source, so, and people still use that one all the time, so. Not
Yeah,
to be in the-
You don't have to have it there, but it might make more sense to have it there. I agree with what Cody's saying, but it's not a must-have for a park. I go to the Woodcreek North one all the time. I just bring my own water. So, but we do run out sometimes.
Yeah, we do that too. If Aqua Texas buys the water fountain for us, the rest of the cost will almost be the cheapest thing we build at Creekside. Getting a water line installed.
Something cheap, yes. And as far as the use of natural features, I'm all for using natural features as long as they are things that will last and can provide us something that can be insured. The city's insurance will cover us employing that.
And something we can
There-
install on a floodplain.
Well, yeah, and you could also do that at Augusta Park too, as well. Augusta Park would be a great place to do some of that. And
Yeah.
I think as we go along, I also was looking at the Texas Parks and Wildlife grants. They have a series of different grants that come out. The next one that is available is August the 1st. And it's $150,000 grant for a non-urban city, a small non-urban city. And so and they have various other ones throughout the year. So we have opportunities to capitalize on local builders, natural features, things like this that we can start populating some of the other areas should we not get all of the money out of Kozak. But we're not caving on that right now. We want to try to get all of the money out of Kozak. And I'm convinced that it's not impossible, given that I think we were the smallest ask they had of all of the grants. I mean, we're noise level. We are, 0.1% or something of their overall volume.
Rounding here.
Yeah, we're just around it. We're noise.
Yeah.
And so,
That noise needs to be the squeaky wheel that needs the grease. We need to demand the money from them.
We are a city, and I think with coming in at the bottom, that they ought to just give us the money and move on. You know?
And yeah.
we are going to, I keep talking into my microphone. There's no microphone.
Oh, yeah.
I think we need to go through the whole thing.
We're trying. We have a meeting that Chris, Jeff, myself, and Brent are going to meet with Lauren next Wednesday. And we're going to surround him and do our best to convince him of the virtues. I mean, we'll outweigh and outnumber him, it's, we'll do
Can I ask a
whatever.
question about grants? Who has an understanding of how grant funds can be commingled?
Oh.
Brent's probably the guy. But the problem is if we start commingling stuff, then it's like shared responsibility. Oh, we'll get LCR to pay for it, get Texas Parks and Wildlife to pay for it. And so if you try to do that parallel, I had the previous mayor was advocating for me to do that, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out how to go ask for the same thing to 3 or 4 different entities unless you did it in series, one after the other.
That leads into my next thought there, Pat. If we're looking at 3 potential grants, if we're looking at 3 potential funding sources and we have 3 potential properties, why aren't we targeting each of those 3 grants at an individual property if we can't commingle them?
Yeah. Right.
Texas Parks and Wildlife at Augusta Park, LCRA at the Entrance Park, and Kozak at the Creekside Park.
Yeah.
But if we're about to find out about Kozak, we need to wait and find
Yeah,
out what
but
they give us
One thing.
before we pull
Yeah.
anything out full. I mean, go in with everything.
Yeah.
You know,
Well-
if you don't ask for it, you're not gonna get it. If you pull something back, then they're gonna be like, well, they're not really committed to this.
Yeah,
Craig wants to say.
so go ahead.
So I'm gonna kind of reference back why this came back to you in this format. The original ask that the Parks Board sent to council was to spend the $60,000.
Yes.
This was the response. Okay, if you want us to spend the $60,000, we need you to do this.
No, it's a valid response.
So that's why,
Yeah.
that's what all this prioritizing is about. It's not asking to not do the full project.
Yeah.
Or not talk about the fact that it could possibly happen. It's asking if you want us, council, to spend $60,000, you need to give us a plan prior to our it, often with the comprehensive plan saying he wants to place it.
Yeah,
And
and
so that's the context of these, all those words.
And based on that, we took that, the gazebo was the only thing that was affordable.
Yes.
in
Yeah.
this, you know.
but
That
this,
was our,
Starting point.
yeah, I mean, we were told to come up with something, so we came up with something within the confines of the money that we had to work with.
and that ask was based probably on the overriding optimism of the chair of this group. And in the light of day, I'm not sure that was a wise decision to go to council with at that point. So we
Water under the
are,
bridge at this point.
it's kind of water under the bridge. And so now we are kind of going back to our original position. I don't know if we have an agenda item to cover that or if we should.
Well, if I could help.
Okay, go ahead.
So if you're no longer asking council to spend the $60,000 now, basically ignore all this. Because this is a response. So you said asking council,
Well,
spend this existing $60,000.
I don't know how to fit that into this agenda or can.
Well, because
Let's
I
just,
move that we withdraw that request.
Just a minute, Cody.
So the prioritization of the $60,000, the grants, we need to talk at the end. So the discussion about grants is the last.
But that's other entities.
Other grants.
that's
Right, but
understandable.
that was kind of, I've already mentioned Texas Parks and Wildlife.
Right, but that's where we should be talking about it.
Not now.
You're right. I mean,
All right, so.
if you haven't noticed, we're a little more freeform than we should be, but we try to get to the same destination.
God, I've got a hard stop at 3:00.
I'm sorry.
So based on what Chris said, I would say they were going on something we asked for, and they're not really asking us to prioritize the whole project. So
Okay.
how about we just table it until we find out how much money?
Yeah.
Why do we
Why
have,
don't we have a motion to that?
I make the motion, we table this.
I
until we
second
get information and,
Okay.
know what we're doing.
Given a better understanding of the finances.
Okay.
Is that good enough?
Can we just do all in favor, say aye?
No. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Pat Rawlings,
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Karen Clark. Aye. Board Member Cody Apple,
Aye.
Board Member Ruth Ann Gilbert,
Aye.
Board Member Elizabeth Moore,
I
Thanks, Bruce.
Okay.
Okay, so we have tabled that after all of that. stuff.
That was a valuable discussion, though.
Yeah, it was a good discussion.
It was.
Item number 4. Oh, this is a little easier one. Discuss and take appropriate action on the location, day, and time for the Parks and Recreation Board Spooktacular event. I think
I thought we were doing that.
I thought we did too, but if we didn't do it, let's just redo it again. It's October 30th. It's the day before Halloween.
Yes.
The location, I've been told by the superintendent of the Quicksand Golf Course that we may use their property, where we did it last year to do it. And the time. The same time we did it?
Well, it was 5 to 7 last year, and by 7, it was pretty dark. You know?
Yeah, because this is October.
Right, perhaps we should bump it up to 4:30 and extend it, because there's a lot to do.
Mhm.
And particularly if we do what Ruth Ann and I have to come up with for the costume contest. That's gonna take long. So how about 4:30 to 7? And by 7, most people will have cleared out and we'll hopefully have everything.
Okay, I move that we have it on October the 30th. At Quicksand Golf Course, beginning at 4:30 and ending at 7.
Yeah, great.
I second that motion.
Yes.
The road starts at 4:30. Floats or whatever start moving, the parade starts.
I second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
I'm sorry, just for point of clarification, people who may not have been here last year, you said same location as it was last year. So
At the intersection of Woodcreek Drive and Pro Lane. Is that Pro Lane?
Woodcreek Drive and
And Pro.
The address is 1 Flower Drive.
Oh, what?
One program,
1 Pro Drive.
is that it?
Okay,
Yes.
Okay.
thank you. All
Pat, I
right,
don't know if you heard me, but Pat, I have a hard stop in 15 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Do y'all want to hear some of our ideas? Oh, I'm sorry.
so, board member Ruth Ann Gilbert,
Yes.
board member Elizabeth Moore,
Yes.
chairperson Pat Rawlings,
Yes.
vice chairperson Karen Poe,
Yes.
board member Cody Abney.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, given Cody has got a hard stop, do we have anything that's really pressing out of the next 3?
I can tell you about item number 5 if you would like, or something about it at
Well,
least.
let's just press on, yeah. I think that we ought to charge you with going ahead and getting the inflatables, given how much trouble we had last year getting them.
Done.
Okay, so let me,
Done. Yeah, he's done.
right, so let me let's get clarification. We're still in the current budget year. We have unused funds. Is that correct? So we can go ahead and be spending money out of this year's funding for this event.
And the National Night Out that you talked about in October, is that after after the beginning of the next budget cycle? Okay. So we have some outreach for this.
To go ahead and purchase some items so that we can, if we want to do banners, the games, there's some games that Ruth Ann and I have want to add. We need to buy, the tree bags. We were way under on tree bags and getting that kind of stuff that we could go ahead and spend money on now and not have to pull it out of next budget. And that gives us more money for 2 employees.
Brenton, can you hear us?
We can, it's on you.
I'm just wanting to understand how much we have in the budget that could be directed toward Spooktacular. Did you hear it?
Well, I heard about that.
Well, basically, we're just looking at spending some of this year's fiscal budget instead of waiting till next year to spend it. Since we have some outreach funds that have not been expended this year. So if we bought them this year, wouldn't it be better than spending them in right after the beginning of the next cycle?
Got 11 minutes, guys.
Because all it does is carry over. So,
Yeah.
but you don't know how much the council will budget for that outreach next year.
But we know how much we got this year.
Right.
How much we got this year?
So
About $2,000.
less,
But some of it is gonna go to national.
Well, see, that's why I said $2,000, because actually I think we have about 4 in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, I split it.
okay, so I need to understand. You're saying that the $4,000 that's there now,
We got two
$2
things.
grand right
Right.
now, and will be carried over?
No, it's never carried over. So whatever's not spent on September 30th, it goes back into fund balance.
Okay.
And whatever the council has adopted for the new budget, that's how much money will be available. So if they say it's only $4,000, or they could say 10,000.
Okay, Cody, we need to know how much those two large inflatables will cost total.
$1,000.
Total for both of them?
Actually, it's a little bit more than 1,000. I'll cover everything above 1,000.
Can we prepay it?
Oh,
I've already put down a deposit.
That's all they require right now is deposit.
How much was the deposit?
About $300.
Right. Can we prepay it?
I'm sure we
Can we go
can.
ahead?
I'm sure they'll take any money we want to give them.
Yeah. I have a standing policy. I accept all money.
No, they're not going out of business on it.
No, I doubt it very seriously. But that's putting $1,000 at risk. Anything that can happen. I mean, the guy can get hit by a bus.
All right, okay, so looking at that,
I'm sorry, we have 9 minutes to cover 2 more items for his.
okay, so
This is probably,
I
Okay,
think a motion.
let me interject something.
okay.
So basically, since we're talking about the appropriation of the funds, whatever it is, where is the agenda item? Take a program, okay. So in the budget process, since we're talking about the money, you will be, getting a request from staff to ask for money for next year. So basically, I would recommend not expending anything just in case they do go bankrupt.
Well, okay, so I'm backtracking on that. My recommendation is that Ruth Ann and I put together a request for the games that we want to add and increase the tree bag.
And the trees that go in them. And can we order those now? It
Yeah.
probably won't be $200, $300.
No, it's,
We'll spend as much as we can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I think in light of that, this board probably needs to have at least one budget meeting each fiscal year, looking forward to the next fiscal year.
I know.
Yeah, so we
Yes.
need to reimburse, Cody, you need to get that $300
Back.
committed.
Yeah.
So it can come out of this year's budget.
I can do that.
So
I'll send the invoice. I may have copied Brenton on the invoice. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I can send it over.
We'll get a copy of it, but you guys need some pretty soon. Right now, should we roll together his deposit and what you need right now to get started?
I would say, let's get, okay, 700. So what about,
For everything?
well, for the two parents, and the,
So does that include Cody's deposit?
the 300 is Cody, 700.
Okay, so that doesn't, so would you like to make a motion enumerating those items in the amount of dollars? Okay,
I make a motion that we ask city council for $1,000 that would go towards purchasing.
just generally.
Some of our general needs for Spooktacular for next October, which include tree bags, games, the trees themselves, and tablecloths, and anything else that we might need.
Well, and
And the deposit on
$300
the
deposit.
In addition to my 1,000. Is that-
No, that's part.
And that's okay, but reimburse.
That's one of the line items.
Okay, reimburse Cody Avenue $300 for the bouncy.
I second that motion. Were you able to record that motion?
I think so.
You
So,
can lay that on my.
basically, your, Ruth is proposing a motion to ask city council for $1,000 to go towards purchase of the general items needed for the spectacular. Some of the items are treats, treat bags, games, and tablecloths, to be used in October, and 300 of that to reimburse Cody Avenue for the
Okay,
table.
I second that motion.
So you got $1,000.
Total.
2-minute warning for me.
Okay.
Okay, so, we have a roll call, please.
Yes. Board Member Cody Abney,
Yes.
Board Member Ruth Ann Gilbert,
Yes.
Board Member Elizabeth Moore,
Yes.
Chairperson Pat Rawlings,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Karen Coe.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, line item, agenda item number 6, discuss and take appropriate action on a grant from Lcra, Community Development Partnership Program to enhance and possibly expand green space and park opportunities. I think this is a great idea. The only thing I'm slightly concerned about is the timing on it. And so we can start thinking about the sort of things we like to do, but I guess I'd just like to make a motion that we go forward with doing this, that we're probably gonna have to have another meeting to discuss exactly what we would.
Is this
Use
the
it.
one that becomes available August 1st?
No,
No, that's a different, this is one that we have to turn into the council for approval by July the 13th.
I'll have to run now, Pat. I'm sorry.
Okay,
y'all, I gotta go. I got a 3 o'clock.
I called the administrator for the LCRA grant yesterday, Sheila, I can't remember her last name, and talked to her. And it sounds like to me that, and also when I talked to Aurora about this, that once you get over and ask from them for more than 25,000, it's very tough. And you just about have to be some very low-income community or a volunteer fire department or somebody that, really needs the stuff. But
it doesn't have.
they spend 70% of their funds on grants that are 25K and lower. And then they spend 30% on the grants that are over 25K up to 50K. And so I think you just almost be guaranteed of getting something if it was not guaranteed, but you'd have a really good chance if it was a 25K. They had 39 applications in their last grant cycle. And I didn't ask her what the success rate was. The thing that's very nice about them is they said, as you start to put together your grant, send it to them as a draft and let them make suggestions.
Oh, nice.
So I thought, wow, that's really cool. So I'm all over this. The only thing I'm a little cautious about is this somehow affecting our progress with Kozak. And because we have plenty of other things that can be done in Woodcreek. And even with the Kozak grant, if you look at this sheet that shows how the costs have gone up, our original ask for the Kozak grant was approximately $268,000. And it's ramped up by 15% now to $309,000 because of supply, cost of labor, just all of that. So even if we got all of the money that we asked for from Kozak, we'd still be left wanting, we wouldn't have everything we needed. So I'm very gung ho to do this, but we need to kind of put on our thinking caps, and we might need to call another meeting just dealing with this subject or something that's a shorter meeting.
Yeah.
Would you guys be willing to do that? Oops, Elizabeth disappeared too.
Yeah, let's listen.
We still have a quorum.
Yes.
So,
Why don't we look at both the Texas Parks and Wildlife at the same time?
well, we have to discuss that at number 7, but save that.
So I'm gonna be going to number 2. I'm looking 7, and I'll get that to her.
Do you do email? Will you be doing emailing or?
I will be available on you. Well, hopefully.
Well, what I was gonna say is if you just have ideas or things, you can send them in and then they can be distributed to us.
You and I can do
Yeah, we can have like a subcommittee that looks at this and we can communicate back and forth doing that. And hopefully before the deadline approaches, we might have a plan B and C and D that if we discover that everything we want will not fit into the Kozak grant, we're kind of set up to ask the LCRA grant to supplement.
Okay, so let me ask, if we have to have this to city council by the first.
June the 13th.
Of July.
June?
June or July? Okay, so how about, can we have a parks meeting like a week before so we can make our recommendation?
But there may be action coming out of that would have to all be done in a week. Are you gonna be back any
I'll be back on the second.
second?
Well, let me just say, now, actually, I'll be here on the third, and we have a parade on the fourth. After the fourth,
Yeah, so, yeah, let's try to schedule a meeting. We're
I
just
think if we could
immediately,
do it.
and everybody just kind of needs to have, they need to go to the LCRA website and look at the scoring criteria and figure out something that matches their scoring criteria really well and the sort of things where we fit and what we're
And
doing.
what about this? What about you do a subcommittee with somebody other than me,
Mhm.
and y'all come up with ideas, you
Okay.
email me, and then I can send you my comments. And then that.
Well, and I don't even have to be on the subcommittee. I'd be glad to.
Yeah, well, that's up to you, but whoever the subcommittee is, they can communicate with me so I can give ideas
Right,
during the month of June.
right.
And then we'll have something to work with for our next parks meeting. Not just like, oh, well, what are we gonna do? You know, we'll be a little bit further along.
Mhm.
So the subcommittee communicating with you isn't gonna work, because that's a walking on.
No, it's just one person out of the subcommittee talking to Karen.
Well, the subcommittee would be several people, right?
Two
Could
people.
be two.
So there'll be two people, that's why we're the spectacular.
Yeah.
It would be two people.
Yeah,
And then they communicate.
you could talk about the spectacular while you're here, but to then go email someone else on the committee, that's not allowed.
Even if I email
Oh, one
person?
Well, you're putting in two people's ideas.
If you guys have a discussion, then share that discussion between two of you, somebody else in here, or the third.
Then you can't do anything.
Well,
that is so.
what you have to be, if you're subject to open meetings, you have to work within those scope. And you're gonna have, they're right.
Yeah,
So what they're telling you is right, you have,
so we'd have to do everything and then present it at the meeting.
yeah, you have to present it at the meeting, there is,
What we might do is have a meeting while Karen is gone, and she can maybe watch the recording of the meeting and see what our ideas are and such. And then when we get back, she gets back, we could have a meeting where we act on them.
now I do want to clarify something as the person who has the agenda item on the meeting. When you come to council on July 13, there's an expectation that you have a draft of what you're going to present, because your deadline to submit is July 31st.
Oh, I see.
So you have, so just ideas,
Yeah.
just say, we would like to do, and I don't know, I mean, I don't know what Kozak, when Kozak is gonna make a decision or what, but if I were in the shoes, I would look at two options. One option is we get everything we want from Kozak, what else is there? You have a very capable council liaison, I've worked with him in the past, that can help you with that. I'm not the council liaison. But what else, yeah, is in the city that we would, that
Would
is
like
on,
to-
that we would like to do, that
to
the
use that
citizens
money
have
for.
expressed an interest in doing. We've got some things that, okay, so that's kind of one, so maybe like have,
Well, and I was intending for us to have a draft, or not even a draft, a final draft to you by the
it's,
13th.
it's a draft, because council can change. Now, I will tell you from the perspective of having had a successful LCRA grant and asked for the village to store. And the deal, the thing is, with the LCRA, they are very easy to work with. They want to help the community. So communication is not like Kozak, we're not going to tell you anything that you don't need to know, or that we think you don't need to know. They are going to share information with you. If you don't make it to this round, they will meet with you and say, these are the areas where you were weak and why you didn't make it. And then they have this process every 6 months. They have these grants that are available, the next will be in February. We succeeded, the first grant that we submitted, which was in the big category,
Was it the 25,000 below?
it was for two $10,000 for a rain harvesting system with two $10,000
Yeah.
So that was well there. The second draft, the second one that was submitted, which was last February, we did not make it. And they told us why. So we're going to resubmit, and it's gonna be over 25,000 too. But we're going to resubmit, but that's the level of the interaction that they have with you.
Yeah, it's
We're-
really, when I talk to
Very,
them,
very close.
So we have to know exactly what we're gonna use the money for, right?
Yeah.
and they're very big on having it
They
completed in
also-
a year.
They also have something which is, for example, we want to do. They don't expect that when they give you something, it's gonna be in perpetuity. You cannot change or touch what. Like, we have a situation right now where we may want to make changes to the grain harvesting system that they funded. So we called them, and they funded in 2016, in 6 years. We explained to them what we're gonna do, and she said, you have fulfilled your obligation to the LCRA. You have had this grant for 6 years. You've done what it's supposed to do. These are yours to do what you need to do.
Nice.
And
And they
the,
put it in writing.
Yes.
So this is the kind of organization that we're working with. And even if you get this one, you go for a small one and get it, test the water, you can apply again in February.
Yeah.
So you can apply, so it's a good organization to
oh,
work.
yeah,
I don't work for them. When I had my own business, I worked for them. I did training to their staff. And they were very good to work with, very open, very easy to understand what they're seeking from you, and that continues.
they just want something that can definitely be completed in a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and our last grant from LCRA was 7 years ago, in 2015,
Yeah.
the bocce ball court, I think.
About to go for this.
And it was interesting because I didn't realize that, is it PEC, LCRA gives money to PEC, or no, PEC buys its electricity from LCRA. And then PEC, somehow
They
it's a funnel.
generate with their dams, they have the dams that they maintain, so they generate the hydropower, and the PEC is their customer.
But we actually got because we were in their chain like that, we're eligible for an LCRA grant.
That's right.
And one of their scoring criteria is if you've had a grant in the last 5 years, you get paid. We're 7 years, so we're good. And I also mentioned to her, as I said, we have kind of a peculiar situation, even though our median income is above the average level in Texas, we have limited sales tax income because we're primarily a residential community. And so that ends up putting us depending largely on the ad valorem taxes to do everything we do. And so she said, well, write that, there's plenty of room to write that in the comments, and she said that would influence our judgment of what to do.
That's right.
So,
She's
very, very helpful.
She's an extremely, we talked to her, the last rejection, she went, she did
So
more than.
who's on the committee? You want you and I to be on the committee?
Right on.
Okay.
Could we pick one of these little items off of this?
No.
No, okay.
No.
So this would be like benches, water fountain.
But I have ideas.
You have some ideas?
I have ideas.
Okay.
There, some of them are parallel or analogous, some of them are totally different,
Okay,
but we can talk about it.
all right.
So, do I need to make a motion on the committee, or do we just?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, no, please.
Really, they actually did this, this is,
Okay, I move that we have a committee comprised of Ruth Ann Gilbert and myself to look at options to propose and come up with draft options, or to come up with draft options for the LCRE grant, and to get a final draft to council by July the 13th.
that's a regular meeting.
And we need to have a meeting.
And so we will have to have, that
With a meeting in between.
we'll have a meeting without Karen where our subcommittee comes forth with ideas, but you can watch either the live meeting or the recording of it and see what we say. So that at the next meeting, when we're coming along, we
Right, but also, we need a meeting that first week.
well, we would, but I'm gonna say we're gonna do one like in the middle.
Okay, so we're mid comprising the motion. Okay,
Well, the meetings shouldn't even be part of that.
so the rest of that motion, or the motion was that Pat Rollins is making a motion that the subcommittee will be Ruth Ann Gilbert and himself, to come up with draft options for the LCRA grant and get a final draft to city council by July 13th with a meeting of the Parks and Recreation Board.
That's good. Did somebody second that?
No, Ruth Ann, oh, you did?
I did.
Okay, you do now.
Make it easy.
Okay, so, we resolve, oh, we need to
And a
vote.
vote. Sorry. Okay. So Cody's gone and this is gone. All right, so we're going to start the vote with Chairperson Pat Rawlings,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Karen Poe,
Yes.
and Board Member Ruth Ann Gilbert.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And then the last item is discuss and take appropriate action on the consideration of other entities for grant applications. And I think, I'm not sure we would probably even need to take any real action right now, but the only action I would like to suggest is that you go to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Grants page and start looking at targets of opportunity on that, because they have, instead of every 6 months like LCRA, they have them like every month or two, different grants for different things. Some of them are for urban things, and we wouldn't be eligible for those, but they have like rural communities and cities under 5,000, things like that. And start looking at that, because their threshold for awards is higher. I mean, I saw one of them, $750,000. And I am thinking that they would be a really good opportunity should we come into possession of some additional property in Woodcreek to do something dealing with nature and wildlife. There's some natural areas that are owned by people who might be willing to do something with them.
Oh, and you know, the Brook Hall area, we might could expand.
Well, I mean, you could technically, with the new ownership of the golf course, and I don't know if that is completely signed, sealed, and delivered, does anybody know? I don't think it's absolutely positively signed, sealed, and delivered. But I think there might be some room to discuss with the new owner about some of the property that could be of use to the Parks Department. Yes, and I think Texas Parks and Wildlife would be a really good match. So we just have to see.
I want to say something from the comprehensive plan. We met yesterday
I'm
and
sorry.
the entire meeting
I
was
missed.
on natural systems.
Uh,
One of the comprehensive plan is divided into 4 components. Your land use, your future land use, which is the overall concept, the overall purpose of the plan. Your physical systems, which are your infrastructure, your natural systems, and your fiscal systems. And yesterday, the workshop was focused on natural systems. That Councilmember Hines did an excellent job of putting together this document that with the assistant of Justin County, who's one of the what that view was the framework. And it is all going to, it was recorded. And I encourage you to listen to it because it has a direct effect, talking about particularly the future. It goes more than parks, is your water, your dark skies, your wildlife, it's the whole natural system. So that is something that is, and have, is a liaison that is happening when our goal is to have the plan finished by the end of July. So it's moving fast. And we are, that's one of the reasons I'm sitting here today, not just because I'm item 5, but because just of it for the comprehensive plan.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's pretty, it was, like I said, it was a very good workshop that we, and did everything, and Councilmember Hines will do a recap. She always does a recap. How she takes those notes, I don't know, but she does an excellent recap.
Yeah,
And so you can see her, you can read her recap.
and I apologize for not being there yesterday.
Yeah, it was a very good meeting. And next we're going to fiscal systems, fiscal systems. So just so that when we don't have, when you have something, there's nothing good on television, you can watch.
A lot of these, what I've noticed is a lot of these different things within the city are all starting to weave together and overlap. And I think that's great synergy on the part of all of the different boards, committees, the council, and everything. And I appreciate having Chris here as the liaison and providing us with the information and the insight that helped us get rid of that page request. But I guess just also on item number 7, I guess the last thing is in addition to Texas Parks and Wildlife, if you come up with any other places that you might even consider commercial entities that might just kind of want to get their name attached to something. So do we have any other business? I don't think that completes our agenda. So I guess we're adjourned.